Mega Man Legends, what an awesome game. Who could ever forget such a gem? This was one of many titles that I had in early childhood that I never fully understood how to play. I was too young for action RPGs at the time, so I just roam around the town, running into cars and kicking the can. So fast forward to 2026. I'm now a grown man who can read a little better and comprehend video games roughly around a middle school level. I recently got nostalgic for Legends and wanted to give it the playthrough it deserves. Now, I could have just played it normally first, which probably would have been the best way to go about it, but as most of you know, that's not how this channel rolls. While progressing through Legends, you're supposed to gradually upgrade Mega Man with new weapons, armor, and gadgets, since the Reaver bots and bosses you fight will get stronger in each new area you access. But what if I didn't do that, and tried to become a legend by beating the game without any upgrades? There exist tons of videos of various Mega Man games being bested without the use of any special weapons or upgrades, but almost nothing on Legends. The only things I found were a few forum posts talking about it, and one other person who attempted the run roughly around 3 years ago, but it looks like they unfortunately never finished it. Maybe there exists some video out there that I just couldn't find, maybe not. Either way, I'm gonna give it a try. So let's see if you can beat Mega Man Legends with no upgrades. For this challenge, I'm going to try and complete the game without anything but the base Mega Buster. So no extra weapons, no upgrades, virtually anything that can benefit Mega Man, I'm gonna try not to use. Since there's a story to this game as well, I'll be loosely following along with it as the challenge goes on. So if by chance I mess up some plot here and there, the comment section is down below. Also, hey, late editor's note, even while poorly summing it up, there's a lot of plot in this game to cover. The combat takes a bit to get to, so if you're more interested in that, here's a timestamp for when it starts to pick up. This era of Mega Man takes place thousands of years after Mega Man X, and well after the Zero and ZX games. The world has pretty much flooded, and those who remain took refuge on small islands. They get their energy from quantum refractors, which are found in ancient ruins underground and in the sea. Those who search out refractors are called diggers. While the diggers have been keeping civilization afloat with the refractors they find, stories started floating around about a giant treasure known as
the legendary Mother Lode,
which is said to be so huge that it'd be enough to power the world forever. Mega Man and company are also in search of the Mother Lode, and the journey begins with Mega Man finding a refractor and getting Indiana Jones out of the room he got it in. The tutorial begins from there, with Roll filling us in on the basics. The biggest thing to note is that Mega Man Legends has tank controls, which takes a little bit to get used to. In this dungeon, you'll find the main enemies known as Reaver bots, and some treasure, which funnily enough, is an upgrade for the Buster to make it stronger. So even in the tutorial level, the game is telling you to upgrade. Allows you to power up your Buster gun. Yeah, we're not doing that. At the end of the dungeon, there's a boss battle with a giant Reaver bot. It only has one smash attack that's easy to avoid and goes down quickly, or so we think. Before Mega Man is forced into a watery grave, we're picked up by Roll in our airship known as Flutter and fly away. As we make our escape, Flutter starts to have engine problems, and we make an emergency crash landing on a nearby island called Cadillacs. Barrel, Roll's grandpa, tells us to check and see if there's a town nearby.
I wonder where the town is.
But right before we get there, the feds show up to check up on us, and to make sure that we fill out immigration forms, because they're needed to enter the city. But while the boring old paperwork gets done, you can visit the shopping area and spend your money without the proper paperwork, because who cares? Here we go. Oh, the nostalgia this little hallway shopping district brings. Before I progress the story, I chatted with some of the locals and did some window shopping. How does she already... Wait. How does she already know our name? We just crash landed on this new town. When I finished up with that, my eyes gazed upon the greatest thing in the game. Oh, kicking the can just brings endless fun, and I was told that it apparently lowers your ethics if you kick it. Yeah, did you know that there's an ethics mechanic in this game? I didn't, but basically, if you do good deeds, Mega Man will stay brightly colored and the townsfolk will be nice to him, but doing bad deeds and being mischievous will darken Mega Man's armor, and he'll be badmouthed by others instead. Since the can is now out of reach, I went to the junk shop in search of parts to fix Flutter. The owner's wife says that she can't sell anything while her husband is out on a dig. It's been a little while since he left, so she asked me to check on him. The gate I need to enter is right near our crash site outside the city, and right when you go in, you can hear the junk shop owner in trouble.
Help! Somebody wild.
I took down some of the Reaver bots that swarmed the dig site and found the shop owner dancing for his life away from them. He thanked me for saving him and invited me back to the junk shop for a reward. That reward being new parts for a new weapon that I can't use. The owner also says that they don't have the parts we need to fix the ship, but instead, we can have his old beater car that's rusting outside the city. As a show of thanks, I gave the owner a false name, and he recommended that I try digging for the ship parts I need. But before I can do that, I'll need to get the proper license. I headed back to Roll and let her know that the junk shop owner gave us a fresh new set of wheels, and a weapons module that we can hook up to it. The weapons module would allow Roll to give me new weapons. How useful. After we chatted about that, a police officer gave us our new citizenship cards, and told us there are still some areas of the city that can't be accessed, due to an oncoming pirate invasion. Being the non-upgradable hero I am, I went into the city to seek out these troublemaking pirates to bring them to justice. I accidentally eavesdropped on this woman talking to her Lego creatures, and they run off. Ignoring them, I investigated further, only to find that most people have evacuated, and that no one around here can drive.
He didn't even stop. Officer, arrest that man. What are you doing?
I spoke with the mayor at City Hall, who actually turns out to be an old friend of Barrel's. They're discussing why the pirates might be headed towards them, and Barrel thinks that they're after the legendary treasure that's supposedly buried somewhere on the island. But that just might be a myth. Or legend. Barrel tells me to check back in with Roll, and while on the way there, we see the girl from earlier being chased by a dog. I saved her from the foul beast and instantly gained
Hunk status.
She runs off again, and while I chatted with Roll, some airships flew past. Wonder what those could be. The pirates began invading the city, and it was up to me to stop them. These three robots, called Bloom Bears, are piloted by those Lego fellows from earlier. They're called Servbots and are a part of the Bond family. Between the three of them, one of them has a key to access City Hall, and they'll swap it around during the fight. Each Bloom Bear has a strength: red for combat, blue for speed, and yellow for endurance. While these guys aren't particularly difficult to defeat, they're annoying to fight because they move around a lot, and only every other attack of mine takes away a little of their health. Oh, but their hits did a lot of damage to me.
Dude, I'm getting worked right now. Holy crap.
I didn't have anything on me to heal, but the Dr. Perky vending machine nearby saved me from turning into a bucket of bolts. I took down the blue one first, but he didn't have the key. And while I was attacking yellow, I got teamed up on, and my health was swiftly brought back down. The only thing I could think to do was rush back to the doctor.
I need a sody pop. I'm dying right now. Sold out!
It was a good thing there was another machine not too far away. Trying to get this key took forever. It had me feeling like the alcoholic aunt on 7th Heaven, desperately trying to get the liquor cabinet key from that kid.
Give me that damn key!
But I took all three of them down, and got the key from the red and final Bloom Bear. Mission complete. Yeesh, that took a little while. Surely I'll have a second to— Nope, second boss fight. This time it's against Tron, the girl I rescued. She's a lot stronger than the Servbots, and has a bunch of different attacks. Since my range was low, I had to stick close to land any hits. For the most part, the attacks weren't too tough to avoid, but the ones that did land got me good.
Oh,
I was down to my last bit of health, although nothing was there, and while it was real close, Tron ended up getting the best of me. My first game over. What a shame. But I'm sure I'll have plenty of those. Should be able to just start the fight over, right? Nope, not in Legends. You can only load previous saves that you make with data. So if you're in the middle of a fight and lose, you have to do it all over again from your last save. After a bunch of losses at the hands of the Bonds, and learning that it can be hit mid-perky moment, I finally defeated Tron. She retreats, and I'm rewarded with a nice fresh save. I went up to City Hall, where more Bond bots were running amok. They're all really tanky, and took forever to destroy. Per the newscaster covering the scene, she made it appear at first that the bots destroying the city were the ones to focus on, when you're actually supposed to take the ones down that are bringing more in first. They let you know that after most of the city is destroyed, though. It was frustrating trying to take down these swarms of enemies all at one time, so I led the carriers to a lower level of the city, and was barely able to land hits on them as they followed me around. I also had no health again, so that was fun. They'll follow close behind, but if you catch them between lampposts or palm trees, they'll slowly rise over them, and that'll give you enough time and space to land a few attacks. It was tedious, but it worked. Once they were gone, I cleaned up the rest of the bots, and lo and behold, another boss fight that I was ill-prepared for, mainly due to this homing missile attack. The baby bot defeated me, but now that I knew what I had to do to get to him, I focused on the carriers first, then the other bots for a quick and more efficient fight. I figured out that when the baby shoots out the missiles, you can just run forward into the attack and they'll never hit you. This fight ended up being easier than I expected, but can we cool it with the bosses for a moment? I feel like the game hardly started. A cutscene plays showing this green character named Teasel. He catches the local Fox News to find that we defeated Tron and the baby robot. He decides to take matters into his own hands and forms a plan to dig up the treasure himself. While chatting with the mayor and Beryl and the remains of her office, the investigator we met at the crash landing shows up to inform us of Teasel's plan. The mayor orders him to arrest Teasel, and you know he ain't gonna be able to do that alone. But before leaving, the mayor gives me a Class B digging license, so I can access the ruins in Gaun-dortan Forest in Clozer Woods. Outside, Roll tells me she fixed up the car and can be more useful in future endeavors. Mid-conversation, we notice the inspector drive by going after the pirates, and I follow close behind him. Turns out the pirates brought out another army of servbots, and they took out one of the police cars. Now they want to go after me next. Not knowing what I was getting into quite yet, I ran back into the city to heal and save. In reality, the tanks were pushovers, but you can never be too careful. After entering this cave, I weaved around some more bots and began my first fight with Teasel. This fight is where some of the issues with the run and game in general really started to shine through. Before you can damage Teasel's Marowolf, you have to take out its treads first. While you do that, he'll be moving around and attacking you. But not just him. If you get too close to them, there are servbots and tanks around that will attack you too. You can destroy them before the treads if you want, but you can't keep your eyes off of Teasel for too long. He has these giant green blasts that will not only hit you for a ton of damage, but can also lock onto you at times, making them hard to dodge. After destroying the treads, he'll shoot more green blasts at you while you have to attack the opened hatch at the top. When opened, either a servbot or birdbots will come out to attack you with bombs, so it's best not to be right next to the open hatch. I didn't quite get that my first couple of tries on this boss, because being close by seemed like it was the best way to land hits. Speaking of landing hits, Teasel's green blasts are so annoying. You'll be fighting the camera trying to avoid them, and sometimes it feels like there's almost nothing you could do. You gotta move fast and make sure your camera is properly positioned. I spent around an hour trying to figure this boss out, and eventually found something that worked. When you're good to attack the open hatch, Teasel will move to the left and right, and there's a large platform in front of him that you can move around on. If you move to the edge of this platform, you can get just close enough to lock on and attack the opened hatch. After landing a couple hits, you can run back to the edge of the dirt, where his blasts usually won't hit you. If one does make its way to you, you should be able to dodge roll away from it. With a little patience, Teasel will go down just like the rest of the bonds before him. After the battle, I'm called back to the mayor's office, where I'm awarded a Class A digging license, even though I haven't done any digging yet. But the mayor gives us permission to dig in the city's subgates, and lets me know that I can donate any valuables to repair the city that I painstakingly worked to save. So Roll and I made our way to the Gaun-dortan Forest, fought off a few enemies, and reached the subgate. Right as you enter, a refractor is dangled in your face, but it can't be grabbed until you find the 3 keys to unlock the shield protecting it. Snagging the keys was fairly quick, and the Reaver bots didn't pose much of a problem. I deactivated the shield to the refractor and fully expected a boss fight, but nothing happened. Both Mega Man and I were in disbelief, though after a ton of boss fights back to back, I'll take it. The next stop was the Lake Gian subgate, but to get there, we'll need to travel by water.
Wiley's boat. Oddly suspicious name.
He says he has something we could use, but it's out of commission and needs a refractor to power it back up. You don't say. Roll heads on over to get the refractor installed, and then we set sail in the... what's this called again?
It's the boat. I don't know why that's so funny. It's the boat.
After taking off, I had a vivid flashback of this segment being the last thing I can remember from my old playthroughs back in the day. Bond robots start attacking your ship. The red ones shoot torpedoes, and the yellow ones fired missiles into the air. There's also airships that attack you too. It's a mess, and likely why this was my last memory of this game from my younger years. This on-rail segment lasts for about 5 minutes, which feels even longer while you're doing it. I was overwhelmed trying to focus on everything, and caused the ship to sink. But the next time through, I focused mostly mostly on the torpedoes and some of the missiles. And while our boat took a fair amount of hits, we made it through to the end. But of course, these segments usually come in twos. The Bonds show up and start attacking our ship, doing a ton of damage. Roll notices this and gave us the option to fight or leave. I'm sure as hell not doing that on-rail segment again if I can help it, so I chose to stay and fight the Bonds. They'll start by following you around a river while shooting missiles. It's not so bad until you reach the end. I had to circle around the Bonds and slowly chip away at their robots, Balk and Garrat, until both its arms and rear cannons are gone, all while on the same health bar that I started with at the very beginning. While I would unfortunately take another loss at the hands of the Bonds, another issue would arise that I was not too thrilled about. The attack range on the base buster can't reach the cannons on the back of the Balkan. If I'm unable to take those out, then I can't win this fight. Unfortunately, I was left with no other choice. I had to use a range upgrade. Really disappointing because I felt like the run was just getting started, but I was left with no choice if I wanted to continue. Legends is fun, and I didn't want to stop playing, so I decided that from here, I would only use upgrades if absolutely necessary. So I finished the rail segment again, and this time retreated before my fight with the Bonds, because that will actually heal your boat and serve as a checkpoint, so you can save and re-enter the fight as needed. But when I tried again, I found out fast that the small range upgrade was not the complete answer to this fight. While I was able to take out all of the Balkan's weapons, it spawned a new one in the back that fires those green blasts that I just love so much. I couldn't do enough damage to take it out before it got us, and it still seemed like my attacks just barely reached it. So I tried again, this time with a single power razor to increase my attack, because data tipped me off that my current equipment may not be good enough. Even with some extra power, it was not enough to sink the Balkan. Every time the green cannon rolled out, I was finished. I noticed that my attacks were still hardly landing, but when they did at the right time, it would stop the blast from firing. However, this was terribly inconsistent, and my attacks usually didn't land. I tried to tell myself that it was just me, and maybe it was, but after an hour of losing and never getting close, I caved and got a better range booster. But to still try and make it fair, I swapped out my attack razor so I'd at least be at my base power. Turns out, the extra range was all I needed. The Bonds flee, and I can now unequip my upgrades, save my game, and access the Lake Gian subgate. Shortly inside, I was met with another moment where I had no other option but to use an upgrade. This area has tall platforms, and to access them, you need the jump springs. Good thing I found the spring set in the last subgate and talked to Roll to gain access to them. Otherwise, I would have had to do a lot of backtracking. Once more, I had to find 3 keys to access the refractor. That didn't require a whole lot of work, but the Reaver bots were all much stronger than they had ever been before. At this point in the run, it felt more productive to juke and hop around them, but they still found ways to attack me. This is not good. Once I had all 3 keys, I went back out to Data for a quick save and heal, and then headed towards the refractor and passed what is definitely not the next boss in the room before it. This is Gaun-dortan, and unlike me, because I took the jump springs off, it's got mad ups. Holy sh**. It only took 3 of these attacks to end me, and I barely landed a single hit. The only place I could attack this guy was on his tiny shrunken head, and with a big body like that helping to cover it, it left me with very small windows to attack. I was a little nervous, but that didn't last very long, because I figured out that if you keep a fair distance and move right before the large jump, you can easily evade it, but you also gotta look out for this ground attack too. I came up with a system where I'd move into a good spot, land a few hits, then run away before the jump. This took forever. I think I could have gotten away with faster hits if I just ran around him and continuously fired shots. But the process worked, and it only took a little over 20 minutes from start to finish to beat this guy. With the refractor I just got, Roll was able to get Flutter back up and running again, though it's not back to 100% quite yet. I had some time to kill, so I said hi to the cat that I swooped up earlier while running around. I'm taking this kitty home. We just collected. Does it show up in the inventory? Refreshed myself with some more Dr. Perky from the fridge and gazed upon our beautiful artwork. Why are there just 2 pictures of sheep? Green sheep, huh? That's an interesting choice. Then I had Roll fly me to the Clozer Forest subgate, which is conveniently high in the skies. I dropped down to a lower floor, then went into this room where Roll claims that
the power's out in that room.
Despite it being pretty well lit, Mega Man doesn't find a switch to turn on the lights, but he does make a fair attempt to read some of the writing he sees.
Emergency system activation requires direct password input from
Eden.
Who would have thought that super fighting robot Mega Man was mildly illiterate? But anyway, 3 ID cards are needed to activate this thing. Sure, I can do that, but not without the jump springs, cause this subgate requires them. I found a room with these spider reaver bots that I hadn't seen since the tutorial level, and Roll says that there may be a secret spot in there that leads to a new area. I found the spot on the ceiling, but couldn't break it down. With a few jumps, I found the first ID card, and then the second after running around and exploring the subgate. Nearby that, there was a switch to a generator that I flipped on so I could use the elevators again and get out of here, and I did just that for a safety save. Then I headed back down for the final ID card, this time with the grenade arm because I needed it to get the last ID from that secret room. It led me to an elevator, and while I went down, Roll asks, where do you think reaver bots come from? In the subgates, because there's 3 big dogs down here about to rip me to shreds. These guys are scary as hell. They chase and lunge at you, and can even breathe fire for a few seconds. My only method of attack was run like the Dickens in a circle, and then fire a few shots when there's a little moment after their lunge attack, or after they step back for the flamethrower. But man, 3 at once. Not to make any dog puns here, but that is rough. A few missteps, and you're gonna be a Scooby snack. Which is what happened to me because my hand was cramping from the tank controls, and I messed up my movements a little bit. But that's okay, I saved my game right before this fight. Didn't I? Wait, what the did I not save? Oh my god, I didn't save? Well, I thought I did, but when I originally went back up to save after getting the first 2 ID cards, I spaced out and thought I saved after data checked my memory card. Honestly, kinda surprised that didn't happen sooner. So I had to go through the whole subgate again, but since I knew where everything was, it wasn't so bad. And neither were the dogs. Well, after the beginning of the fight. Okay, wow. By circling around and not messing up any movement this time, I was able to slowly chip away at those health bars and old yellered these reaver bots one by one. The reward for taking them down was the final ID card, and before I used them, I went back up and saved for real this time, because I sure as hell am not going to be thrust into another boss without being prepared. The ID cards activated the main gate. No bosses after this happens though. At least, not right away. I told Roll that we should head back to the Gaun-dortan Forest, and on the way, we're intercepted by the Bond's Gessellshaft. This battle is where all hell broke loose. First, you have to destroy 5 of these ships, which are fairly tanky and not easy to hit without some range. They laid waste to Flutter, but I managed to get by with just a little bit of health left. Then you take the offensive, but again, still with that same health bar like back in the water, Roll will move Flutter around from left to right, and you have to take down the Gessellshaft's wings and underside. When you're at the wings, Roll will conveniently place you next to 3 cannons that fire off powerful attacks and hardly give you any reaction time. I didn't have the range anyway, so I could hardly do any damage, and we fell right out of the sky. So I attached the best range upgrade I had, and proceeded to get absolutely up by the Gessellshaft for the rest of the stream. I imagine that with the right upgrades, this fight would be much less annoying, but with no extra attack power, I was at a huge disadvantage. I referenced a forum post on GameFAQs, where someone else mentions that they got to this fight and had trouble with it too, even with a power and range upgrade. So I gave it a try for myself with the same loadout, and I still got my ass whooped. The bombs that the Gessellshaft fires at you just deal so much damage, and while you can destroy them, you have to be so precise. Even Flutter floating in the air can mess you up. It took me so long, but I got the Gessellshaft down to its last bit of health, and from there it was a standoff to see who could take who down quicker. Those blasts thankfully don't do a whole lot of damage, yet I still won by the skin of my teeth. Any normal person would think that this fight is over, but come on baby, this is Mega Man Legends. Of course you have a third fight to do all on the same health bar. Tron takes wing in the Fok Wolf and rains hell down upon us. Flutter's health was so low that I didn't even have a moment to think about what was about to happen. To say that this fight is frustrating would be an understatement. 3 phases of this is nuts. The next time I made it to Tron, I had about half of a health bar, so I could somewhat figure out what I needed to do. She'll start out by launching 3 missiles, and you have plenty of time to destroy them, but you gotta be fast, because if you lose sight of Tron, you won't know what she's gonna do next. Sometimes she sends out more missiles, other times she flies close above you and you can land a few hits, and sometimes she'll fire a bunch of weak shots above onto Flutter, and maybe you, depending on where you stand. All 3 phases here take a lot of practice to get down, especially while handicapped like this. First off, the ships in the beginning won't attack while they're being hit by you, and they also won't try to attack until they're in front of you. Staying in the front and timing your attacks properly will ensure that Flutter doesn't take too much damage. As for the Gessellshaft, I was at a bit of a loss since I couldn't quite get the bombs down. I figured it'd be a waste of time since I'd be taking hits anyway, so whenever we were lined up with them, I went to the corner of Flutter and fired off as many shots I could to take out the wings, then the underside when we switched over. This took a lot of Flutter's health away, but it was more than I had in my previous attempts. Then for the Focke-Wulf, aside from keeping track of it and destroying the missiles, it can be hit while it's flying around, so it's best to try and land some extra hits wherever possible. If you play it right, you should be able to win with a little health to spare.
Okay. Jeez.
The bonds fall yet again, and it seems like they may be gone for good this time, but even though I won with limited upgrades, it still felt like I didn't do this right. I mean, after all, it's supposed to be a challenge run, and while I needed some extra range to fight these guys, the extra attack power felt like cheating. I wanted to make this right, but just in case, I made a safety save and loaded my old one back up. I braced myself as I looked back at the Gessellshaft, now determined to take it down with no extra power. Now that I did far less damage, I couldn't just rely on spamming attacks on the wings to get me through. I had no choice but to destroy as many bombs as I could. This was a daunting task, because the bombs shoot out fast, and you have to have near perfect reaction time. These bombs were a big reason why I hardly ever made it to Tron. They just do so much damage. I found that if you land just enough hits while you move to the first wing of the Gessellshaft, you should be able to take out the first cannon before it starts firing. Only having 2 left to focus on makes things far easier. Though it's unfortunate that the cannon will respawn when you move back around. What I found that worked best for me was positioning myself in front of the first cannon on each side, and firing off a few shots just before the bombs come out. Then it was just a straight line shooting shots at the other 2 cannons. This didn't always work as intended, but it greatly minimized the damage we took. Slowly but surely, things were looking up. But when they were really up, Roll would occasionally make the lovely decision to fly in front of the Gessellshaft, so I could destroy a bunch of bombs flying at us instead of focusing on the tasks at hand.
Of course. Straight to the front. They see I'm doing too good.
I would end up consistently making it to the Focke-Wulf, but when I did, whoo baby, the nerves were flaring up. In reality, this is a much better fight than with the Gessellshaft, but you just cannot lose sight of this thing at all. If you do, it'll mess you up completely. Your eyes need to be peeled on it at all times to make sure the missiles don't land, because any other attack the Focke-Wulf does won't hurt you too bad. I had a lot of great runs, close calls, and a couple of chokes of the century.
Such low health, dude. Use track of her one time.
But with enough time and patience, I was able to accomplish what seemed to be impossible.
Yes, dude. Oh my god. Holy shit. Oh my goodness gracious.
This felt better than anything I had done so far in this challenge, and I'm so glad that I decided to sit and grind this out properly. Now I could progress forward with a smile on my face and no regrets. The flutter lands, I made a new save, and did a little accidental exploring.
Hey, what do you think you're doing?
I walked off that embarrassing interaction and went to the main gate, then unlocked the city subgates using this thing. These subgates have keys that I'll need to unlock the rest of the main gate, but before I can get to them, I have to fight the Bonds one final time in their giant robot called Theodore Bruno. I felt like this fight was being hyped up in my chats, maybe because of the large health bar, but Bruno doesn't even hold a candle to the Gessellshaft. You just gotta stick behind it, fire off some shots, find cover when it turns around, and that's it. Bruno would end up beating me a few times, but his win streak was soon finished, while I also hung on for dear life. Teasel finally concedes, and the Bonds walk off seemingly defeated. But Teasel always has a plan, and says that they'll come back to steal the big treasure that I may find in the main gate. Desperate for help, I called Roll and did the old save and recharge, and then made some charitable donations to the city because I forgot it laid in ruin. Then I entered my first city subgate, and lord, I picked the worst one. This centipede-looking Reaverbot poops out more Reaverbots while walking around this sub-city. The only place you can attack it is at its back hatch when it's open, and it won't open if there's too many Reaverbots on the ground. I didn't have the will to do this at the time, but we'll revisit this again soon. The other two sub-cities just have you fighting off a modest wave of Reaverbots. One you can take care of without anything special, but the other required me to use the jump springs, because I just couldn't quite reach one of the Reaverbots that was high on this building. Defeating all these Reaverbots granted me 2 keys for the main gate, and then it was back to the centipede. Like many of the other bosses I defeated, this was a time killer since I had to keep up with the Reaverbot while also steadily destroying the ones around me. I figured the best way to do this was to have the Reaver bots follow close by, slowly shoot them down, and then I'd be right where I needed to be to land some attacks. This was going over a lot better than I had hoped, but due to some carelessness, I took a few hits and feared that I was going to die. So I tried to cheese some of the Reaver bots by shooting at them while on nearby buildings, hoping that they'd drop some health, but they were unfortunately not as stupid as I thought they were.
Burn to the ground! Burn!
How the what the Yeah, that sucked. However, on my next try, I found out something that would make this fight a lot more tolerable. If the Reaver bots are far enough out of sight from the camera, they just won't attack you. At least not here anyway. So without the added fear of being hit from behind with a skill shot or lunge attack, I felt a lot more comfortable staying put and spamming my buster when the hatch opened. I still had to destroy the remaining Reaver bots afterward, but that was easy. And now I had all 3 keys to enter the final area in the main gate. You have to spiral downward and avoid some Reaver bots. And when I reached the end at this door, I came face to face with this Kingdom Hearts looking ass robot. The robot recognizes me as Mega Man Trigger and says that I must have suffered some memory loss. The robot brushes past that and claims that I must have awakened him to purge the harmful carbons on the island. And by that, he means the humans. Of course, that wasn't the plan, but the robot paralyzed me and took off to begin the neutralization process. But thankfully, the bonds were following close behind and saved me from the electric shocks holding me in place. Now freed, I chased after the weird robot and came across what I thought was the mother lode, but it's actually just a giant refractor, and is also the treasure that the bonds originally came here for. After navigating through this hallway maze, I reached the final door, where Data was dancing there waiting for me. He says that Mega Man Juno is behind the door, and what the hell? Another Mega Man? Never would have guessed. Juno says that the neutralization process has begun, and it won't be long before everyone is taken out by the space cylinder. The cutscene abruptly ends, and the final battle begins.
Damn it just cuts to this. Okay. What the hell?
Wow, that was the quickest I had ever been defeated. Juno doesn't f around. Every attack he does will deplete almost all your health, and you're not only fighting him, but the camera too. Like the Focke-Wulf, Juno needs to be constantly in your sights. Most of his attacks can be narrowly avoided, but I had a lot of trouble with his stomp. It seems like the hitbox on the wave that drops down is bigger than it should be. Sometimes I jump over it completely and still be hit, but this usually wouldn't happen if a wall was nearby. Oh, and I should mention that Juno's health is huge. It doesn't look like it at first glance, but the base buster barely does any damage at all. To break it down, Mega Man's base buster does about 24 damage to most enemies, and Juno has 10,240 HP, so it'll roughly take around 427 hits to beat him, and I'm only capable of firing 3 shots at a time. With luck in the attack cycles, this was the most health I had ever taken away from Juno before I lost my marbles and decided I needed at least the jump springs to help me dodge attacks. The jump springs helped out a ton, but with how little damage I was doing, I was destined to be here for a while, but that also meant that I had plenty of time to learn Juno's moves. The charge is easy, just jump or dodge roll out of the way. Sometimes you can even just walk around him. For the stomp, you have to jump at the right time to avoid the wave on the ground. Sometimes after this attack, Juno will fire 2 beams that you have to jump over. If you stay facing forward, you can keep firing at him during this cycle. Then there's the arm attacks, which are the easiest to avoid. When Juno reaches half health, he'll do a desperation attack, which begins with some explosions in the middle and then a drop down with a wave. He'll be left open for a second, giving you a prime opportunity to get some more hits in. When you get everything down, it's not all that bad of a fight, just painfully lengthy. A successful fight roughly takes about 10 minutes, but it's not over after that. And this time, it's more expected because it's a Mega Man game. Almost every final boss has at least one extra phase or two. Juno will hop onto a new body, now with even more health. And if it's your first time fighting this form, especially on a run like this, you're gonna lose. By this point, the first phase was consistently winnable, so to save myself a little time to make it more fair, I performed the sacrilegious act of making a save state the next time I reached the second phase, so I could at least see what attacks he does. Juno is all over the place here. He's got some bounces, a rush attack, Frieza's death ball, and a wave of explosions that likely would hit you without the jump springs. Then finally, the desperation attack. Juno charges up an explosion that you have to jump over, and follows that up with a bunch of hell beams that can be avoided if you run for your life. And that's all there is to the second phase. When I put it it like that, it doesn't sound so hard. But don't be fooled. This fight is excruciating when you're working with the near bare minimum. 10 minutes or more in the first phase, where if you take even one hit, you're nearly screwed. Then following that up with a second phase where your movements have to be even more quick and precise. It's insane, and also pretty hard on the hands. With how many times I died here, I had the first phase locked in easy. I knew how to avoid every attack, and most of the time, I entered the second phase with full health. The second part was a bit of a different beast, and took a while to learn how to put up a fight. Basically, the dodge roll is your best friend here. When Juno comes charging at you, just roll out of the way. Then when he's bouncing, only the first two bounces will come at you. The third one will bring him to the middle of the room. The death ball can be avoided by running, and the explosion wave and desperation attack require more jumps than running away. And while you're running for your life away from all of this, you're dealing with Juno's new health bar, which is over 6,000 more HP than his first form, which just adds on more pressure. I got really close to beating the second phase one time, but had no health left and ended up losing to one of the jumps. It was so disappointing, especially given how much time it took for me to get to that point. But when I loaded up my save after that, I unleashed the base buster hell onto Juno. And when I say that, I mean that I did not take a single bit of damage from this guy in either phase. Well, he did proc my shield. No idea how I survived that, but I was locked the fuck in.
Oh my God, dude.
3.5 hours of this fight, and it was finally over in a near hitless run. Juno dies, yet it seems that hope is still lost. But then Data comes in and overrides the neutralization process, like he could have just done that the whole time. He straight up says that he knows everything about us, and will reveal all in due time. Roll and Barrel call to say that they've been trying to get a hold of me, and Canadian Mega Man gives his apologies for worrying them.
I'm sorry that I scared you.
Sorry.
Back on the surface, everyone is gathered around Flutter, including the mayor, who suggests that I say goodbye to everyone before I leave. I make my rounds, and as we all take off on Flutter, the townsfolk wave goodbye one last time. We fly off into the sky, and the credits begin to roll in, ending the run with the final result being that you cannot beat Mega Man Legends without upgrades. If you made it this far after the technical end of the run, I want to thank you for sticking by. Even though this ended up being a bust early on, I'm happy to have saw this through, especially since I was able to complete the game with no damage boosters. It's crazy that the damage on the base buster is capable of beating the whole game, especially against some of these 2 to 3 part boss battles. And if you're wondering about the extras I missed out on during this playthrough, there's a myriad of powerful weapons that I could have also enhanced, jet skates which could have helped me move faster, a helmet that would have reduced damage to my head, which exists, and of course armor upgrades that can reduce significant damage. Also can't forget the health bar upgrades, and an energy canteen that would have replenished my health whenever I needed it. All of this game was completed entirely without a majority of these things, and to me, that's a win. Now, after completing the game, there is a hard mode that's unlocked. I don't know much about it, but it seems like it increases the health of enemies and bosses, while also increasing the amount of damage Mega Man takes. If you ask me, I don't think a run like this could happen on hard mode. This was already difficult enough, but if anyone else is up for the challenge, that's something I'd love to see. While some of the controls and legends are a bit dated, and the story felt kinda hard to follow, I was thoroughly impressed with this game overall. It probably would have been a better experience if I hadn't put this run onto myself, but oh well. I'm just happy that I could complete another game on my childhood backlog. I'm not sure if or when I'll be visiting Legends 2, but if that's something you'd like to see, you're more than welcome to share your thoughts in the comments below. Be sure to hit the like button if you enjoyed this video. Also, I stream all of my challenge runs live on my Twitch channel and here on YouTube. If you'd like to check that out, be sure to subscribe or follow me on Twitch. The link to my Twitch channel, along with links to my other social media accounts, can be found in the description. If there's a challenge run you'd like to see, you can also check out the description for a direct link where you can submit your ideas. Thanks again for watching, everyone. See you in the next video. That's the hero dialogue. Like, I just can't birth this baby.